Every civilization that has ever looked up at the sky has wanted to reach it. The Chinese lit it, the Italians named it, the British militarized it, and NASA pointed it at the moon. But here is the question no one has ever asked. Where did the word rocket actually come from? Because it didn't come from science, it didn't come from war, it came from a loom. Before anyone called it a rocket, China, 9th century, gunpowder was freshly discovered and packed into a bamboo tube attached to an arrow, lit and launched. The Chinese called it the Tai Lao Shu, ground mice because they hissed and screamed and disappeared into the chaos of the battle. By the 12th century, they were full military weapon. The Song dynasty deployed them against the Mongols, and in 1044, a military encyclopedia called the Wajing Zongyao documented every design. Self-propelled flights centuries before Europe had a single word for it. But here is the thing, the Chinese never called them rockets. The name came from somewhere else entirely. Italy, early 1400s, a weaver's shop. There's a tool called roca, a spindle used for weaving threads. The smaller version, rock cheetah, a little bobbin. Now look at an early European gunpowder tube, long cylindrical, wrapped tight in paper or cord. Somebody looked at that tube and looked at a bobbin and said that's the same shape. Roccacita became the word, and in 1420s an Italian engineer named Giovanni di Fontana drew rocket-like incendiary devices in his manuscripts, flying animals, fire machine. By the 1500s, the Germans had Roget. Leonhard Franzberger used it in 1557, and in 1610 English speakers had it rocket. A textile word, a weaving word, named for the shape of the bobbin. This is the origin of the most ambitious word in history of human exploration. Meanwhile, what was everybody calling rockets before they had a name for them? Missiles. And here is where people get confused even today. Missile comes from Latin meteor, to send, an arrow, missile, a stone from a catapult, missile. Literally any object launched at a target. A rocket was just another kind of a missile. The difference, the actual difference, is propulsion. A missile is thrown, a rocket throws itself. That distinction took centuries to sharpen. Only in the 20th century did the words finally separate. Missile became the guided weapon, rockets became the engine, the vehicle, the thing that breaks gravity. 1780s, southern India, a ruler named Hyder Ali and later his son Tipu Sultan built something Europe had never seen: iron-cased rockets. Not bamboo, not cardboard, not iron. High pressure, long range. They deployed them against British forces in the Anglo-Mysore War, and the British were stunned. The British took notes. By 1808, Colonel William Congreve had reserved engineered the concept and standardized it for the British military. Congreve rockets were used at Leipzig, at Copenhagen, at the bombardment of Baltimore in 1814. The bombardment inspired Francis Scott Key to write a poem, and in that poem, the rocketers red glare. You've been quoting the word rocket in a military scene your entire life. Then came the 20th century, and two men quietly changed the word forever. Konstantin Tsiolkovsky in Russia had theorized it in writing, but Robert Goddard, a quiet physicist professor at Massachusetts, actually built it. March 16, 1926, a snowy field, a 10-foot liquid fuel tube launched 41 feet into the air in 2.5 seconds. No one noticed, no newspaper reported it, but Goddard had already published his paper in 1919, a method of reaching extreme altitudes, and in that paper, rocket was used to mean a space vehicle, not a firework, not a weapon, a machine for reaching space. Germany's V2 in 1944, Sputnik in 1957, and then July 20, 1969, Saturn V rocket carries human beings to the surface of the moon. The word rocket has now become the most ambitious noun in English language. A weaver's spindle, a bamboo tube, an iron casing, a snowy field in Massachusetts. Every single one of these things, a rocket, the word that started on an loom in medieval Italy, traveled through the battle, crossed oceans, jumped languages, and ended up on a launch pad pointing at the stars. A SpaceX Falcon 9 and thread-winding bobbin from 1400s Florence have the same name. That is not a coincidence. That is etymology. That is the invisible thread connecting a craftsman's loom to the edge of the known universe, from spindle to stars.